Governor Doug Burgum has been planning to take part in tonight's presidential debate in Milwaukee, but his status tonight is suddenly up in the air. Joe Skurzewski joins us live from the site of tonight's debate with the latest on the governor's status. Joe?
Yeah, good afternoon, Krista. That's right. Tonight's debate is a major opportunity for Governor Doug Burgum to make his case as why he should be the Republican nominee for president for the first time before a national audience. But we learned this morning that last night the governor was playing in a pickup basketball game with some members of his team, went up for either a shot or a rebound and came down and hurt one of his legs. In fact, he had to go to the emergency room for some treatment, but he has been since discharged from the emergency room. Now, moments ago, I did an interview with his campaign manager, Lance Trover, who told me that the governor has been recovering all day. He is hoping to do the candidate walkthrough early this afternoon and then make a decision from there as to if he can stand in tonight's debate. Here's some more of my conversation with Lance.
I'm told he's in good spirits this morning, and again, hoping to make that walkthrough this afternoon, and then we'll make a final judgment call as to whether he can be on the stage. Obviously, it's a 2-hour debate, so standing on a leg that's been injured for 2 hours, that's something he's going to have to really take a hard look at, and we'll do this afternoon.
And it goes without saying there's a lot at stake here, a lot of effort's gone into this, and this is the governor's first chance to make an impression before a national audience. So if for some reason he weren't able to stand, could you speak on if they would make any accommodations for him, like if he'd be able to sit? How does that work?
Well, I don't think we're that far along yet. I think we need to get through, hopefully get through this walkthrough this afternoon and then make an assessment and a judgment call then before we get into any of that stuff tonight. I mean, hopefully he's going to get through that walkthrough. Hopefully he's going to be on that debate stage tonight talking about his priorities for America, the economy, energy, national security, everything he's been running on the last 10 weeks. So hopefully he's going to be there.
Now, we haven't been able to confirm specifically how the governor injured his leg. We haven't been able to get details on that, and we also don't know what time that walkthrough is this afternoon. But once the governor attempts that candidate walkthrough, we should have an answer either way as to whether he will be able to take part in tonight's debate. Whether the governor takes part or not, we are going to be bringing you continuing coverage of all things debate from the candidates and everything in between. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skurzewski reporting for your news leader.
Thanks, Joe. We look forward to hearing from you a little bit later on.
Tonight is the first chance for Republican presidential hopefuls, including our own Governor Doug Burgum, to make their case before a national audience. This comes as our governor is trying to recover from an injury last night so he can stand on the debate stage tonight. Joe Skurzewski joins us live from the site of the debate in Milwaukee. Joe, do we yet know if the governor can make it tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Monica. Just moments ago, we learned that Governor Doug Burgum will be taking part in tonight's debate stage here in Milwaukee. Now, this comes after the governor partially tore one of his Achilles tendons during a pickup basketball game with members of his team last night. Now, the governor took to his X page this afternoon with a picture of him walking into the arena on his crutches. In the caption, just 2 words: "I'm in." Earlier in the day, Burgum made a brief appearance in the spin zone room where he spoke to the media and fought back tears talking about what happened.
I've never taken prescription pain meds, and I'm not doing that today, even though people said that'd be a good idea, because I'd rather money. So many Americans make so many sacrifices. Think of law enforcement, think of military, what they do for all of us. I mean, if you're going to lead this country, you ought to be able to stand on one leg for 2 hours.
Manager Lance Trover, if the RNC is making any special accommodations for him to take the load off of his leg. Lance said the governor intends to stand. There will be a stool to sit on during breaks. So once again, Governor Doug Burgum will be taking part in tonight's Republican presidential primary debate, a crucial moment for his campaign to introduce himself to a national audience. We will bring you live coverage of the debate and Doug Burgum's performance throughout the night. At the Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skurzewski reporting for your news leader.
Skurzewski has been on the ground all this week in Milwaukee.
He had the chance to speak with Governor Burgum ahead of tonight's debate. He joins us now from the debate site in Milwaukee with more. Joe?
Yeah, that's right, Ellen and Monica. Now that we know that Governor Doug Burgum's Achilles heel will not be his Achilles heel, that gives us a chance, at least for now, to focus more on the issues. Earlier last week, leading up to this debate, I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with the governor about his take on a variety of issues and his preparation for the debate, from national security to the Donald Trump question to his thoughts on making a first impression. Here's the highlights of our discussion. What do you want your first impression to be to the American people when you address them at the debate next week?
Well, I think the big objective for us is just to be ourselves. I mean, when they see someone who grew up in a small town in North Dakota, someone who working on the farm, working at the grain elevator, working on the ranch, working at jobs where I took a shower at the end of the day instead of the beginning of the day. I think Americans are really yearning for the opportunity to have somebody who's got small town common sense.
If my math is right here, 5 of them, yourself included, are either current or former governors of a state. What sets Doug Burgum apart from a lot of the other candidates at this stage in the process?
The real distinction is the private sector experience. I mean, what we've talked about, but the fact that I spent 30 plus years making payroll. I've been making payroll every 2 weeks since I was in my mid-20s. I understand what it's like to cut my own pay to make sure you got enough money to pay your team members.
Does his presence or absence change your strategy or approach to this debate?
Doesn't change anything for us in terms of our approach, and I think competition is great for the Republican Party. Competition is great for America, and I think every campaign gets to decide how they want to approach their campaign. And we have an open border. There's people who are crossing the border across the Rio Grande right while we stood there down there, and there is not, the Biden administration is not treating this like the humanitarian crisis it is, and they're not treating it like the national security crisis it is, because in the last 2 years we've had over 200,000 overdose deaths in America. 70% of those are fentanyl poisoning. That fentanyl is originating in China, coming through the Mexican border. That's like 4 Vietnams worth of loss of life. We're taking mass casualties in the United States right now.
And we'll have highlights from tonight's debate and recap of the event throughout tonight and into Thursday morning. At the Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skurzewski reporting for your news leader.
Governor Burgum was among 8 candidates who faced off for 2 hours in Milwaukee tonight in the first Republican primary debate of the 2024 presidential campaign. They were positioned on stage according to their standings in the polls. Tonight was their chance to distinguish themselves. Noticeably absent tonight was the frontrunner, former President Trump.
Joe Skurzewski has been live on the ground in Milwaukee this week. He joins us from the site of the debate with more. Joe?
Yeah, good evening, Monica. That's right. When Governor Doug Burgum, he didn't get a chance to speak in the debate until about 20 minutes or so into the program. But when he got his chance, he weighed in on a variety of topics, from the rise in national crime to the abortion issue to energy and everything in between. Now, back to the abortion issue, that discussion came up. It became a point of contention between many of the candidates as to whether there should be a federal ban on certain abortions or if that issue should be left completely to the states. Governor Doug Burgum defending his stance on not imposing the federal abortion ban if he was elected, saying it should stay with the states.
The feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned to the states. This is where it should be.
Now, in a more lighthearted moment in tonight's debate, the governor took a moment to make fun of himself, if you will, with the incident that happened Tuesday night where he tore his Achilles tendon. The torn Achilles put tonight's appearance in jeopardy, but the governor did push through.
But when they were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg.
Now, there were countless highlights from tonight's debate, not only from our governor, but from the other 7 candidates on the stage, including some fiery interactions between businessman Vivek Ramaswamy and a few of the other candidates. And I'm going to bring you highlights of the debate throughout tomorrow morning. But for now, in Milwaukee at the Republican presidential primary debate, I'm Joe Skurzewski reporting for your news leader.
Last night's debate was a pivotal moment for North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to make an impression on a national audience. Joe Skurzewski has been reporting on the ground in Milwaukee this week and brings us some of the highlights of the governor's night.
The eyes of the political world were on Milwaukee, Wisconsin Wednesday night as 8 presidential hopefuls took the stage in the first Republican presidential primary debate. Now, the big question for people in North Dakota was, how would Governor Doug Burgum do in this debate?
They were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. The feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses. Over and over, if we say that the Fed should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is return to the states. This is where it should be. Ukraine is an example of when deterrents fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he green-lighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district in the state and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. A lot of noise tonight, not as much signal, I think, as what Americans would maybe want to hear, because as a party, we've got to make sure that we're focusing on the things that matter to most Americans. And these are things like inflation, like national security, like what they're paying for the price of gas at the pump.
The next debate is September 27th in Simi Valley, California. Now, the reason why Milwaukee is so significant is because the Republican National Convention will be right back here at the Pfizer Forum next summer. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skurzewski reporting for your news leader.